Have you ever tried to explain the nuances of your experience of racism, sexism, homophobia, or transphobia, only to hear, well, why don't you just ignore it? You know who you are. Why do you pay it any mind? Are you the type of person who tells your LGBTQIA plus or BIPOC friends to just ignore hate, discrimination, and the subtle reminders they get about the hostile environment they're living in the office in the form of microaggressions? Have you been that person? Was that your stellar advice? Just stop talking about it because that'll probably make it better or easier for you to manage or less uncomfortable for me to have to keep listening to. In this video, I'm going to explain why just ignore it is garbage advice and what we can do in lieu of stuffing down our emotions just for them to pop up in more disturbing forms later on. Hey everyone, my name is Dahlia Kinsey. I am a holistic registered dietitian and an inclusive wellness specialist. All of my content here, and honestly, my life is centered on LGBTQIA plus and BIPOC folks. If you are both of those things, good to see you. If you're one or the other, good to see you. If you are a person who's none of these things, but you want to create safer spaces for people like us, good to see you. So before we get into why just ignore it is trash advice, let's clarify what microaggressions are. A microaggression can be defined as a statement or an action that reveals that someone has internalized bias against you. It doesn't necessarily mean that this person hates the marginalized groups that you belong to, but it does mean that they have unchecked bias, so unchecked that just spills on out during the business day, during regular conversations. Microaggressions, while the name makes it sound like they're not that big of a deal, the consequences for the person on the receiving end of this, it is severe. If you're a person who's had that experience of having somebody say something ridiculous to you that reveals they hold one of your marginalized identities in low esteem, like, for example, oh, you're so pretty for a Black girl. Oh, you're so pretty for a trans woman. Oh, you're so well spoken. What is the underlying implication in all of those statements? Well, you are surprised because you hold this negative belief that all Black femme people are unattractive, that all trans women are not attractive, that or that people that look like me will not enunciate or be someone you feel like you can understand. You may think what you've done is given a compliment. What you've done is a backhanded, hurtful comment that actually does harm. Some people have experienced suicidal ideation after experiencing microaggression exposure. So, the consequences, depending on the emotional state of the person you are speaking to or the other people that hear it, can in fact be very severe. The reason why this channel even exists, my work exists, is because the chronic stress that people experience when they have parts of their identity not being embraced or celebrated by the world around them, that chronic stress tears the body down. And microaggressions are as much a part of that as more overt or obvious signs of racism or transphobia or homophobia. So, telling someone to just ignore whatever microaggression they've been exposed to in the office because you think it'll cause less of a ruckus or you don't want them to make a scene, you're afraid that they'll end up being victimized if they're seen as a squeaky wheel. All of that is problematic. You are asking for the silence of the person who is the recipient of the abuse, not the abuser. That's problematic on multiple levels. Number one, how will we put an end to that behavior in your office or in your family or wherever this is taking place if we don't confront it and address it? If you observe this, it would be far more helpful for you to validate the experience of the person who has been harmed and to ask how you could be helpful. How would this person like for you to move forward? Do they feel like a formal complaint would be the way to go? What would feel like a proactive step? What can you do to help? No one needs for you to suggest that they just stay silent about something that was troublesome enough to them for them to repeat it to you. Two, why is this advice horrific? Where do emotions go when we suppress them? Do they just disappear? Do they never trouble us again? Absolutely not. Suppressed emotions, emotions that aren't experienced, will get stuck in your body and pop up someplace else. When you bottle up emotions, all you're doing is delaying the experience of them. And fair enough, some people will bottle, and refuse to ever directly confront emotions for their entire lifetime. But you will experience that bottled up stress, that bottled up anxiety in other ways. Sometimes it manifests as physical pain, as chronic tension that also contributes to physical pain, maybe high blood pressure, headaches, a suppressed immune system. You cannot ignore an emotion and expect it to dissipate. That is not how it works. The feeling of anger, the feeling of frustration, it's there to tell you something. Whatever went wrong, you are not being oversensitive. Your feelings are valid. You're having a reaction because what you witnessed triggered that reaction. Now, if the people that are currently in your space can't validate your experience, that's okay. It still needs to be validated and it still needs to be experienced. So maybe that's going to be something you do after work. If you are trapped in a space where it isn't safe to express frustration or anger, and if you are a person of color, you've probably had that experience of knowing that there was no way that you could phrase your experience that would be acceptable to the people around you because they're just so comfortable with encouraging marginalized people to suppress their emotions and to never say anything that could possibly inconvenience or even slightly stress out the people with more power in the room. If you can sense it's not a safe space for you to really be honest about what you're experiencing, that's okay. You could journal at your desk. That's a way to process. You can call a friend on your lunch break. You can take it to the group chat, take it to someone who not only is not going to ask you for receipts or proof that what you heard as a microaggression was indeed inappropriate, but people who maybe have some similar lived experience who understand what that feels like to be stifled, to be silenced when you've been harmed in an environment that probably contributes to your chronic stress all the time. If that negative experience is really sticking with you, it could be something to bring up in therapy. There are also physical things that you can do to help you feel your feelings and move through them, especially with more intense feelings like anger. For me, I find deep breathing exercise or physical activity to be really helpful. Sometimes just going for a walk is going to be enough because you can really relax your nervous system and breathe deeply while you're doing that. And sometimes you'll be able to feel it. There's so much pent up energy that you need to do something really intense. Maybe it's jumping jacks in the office, maybe it's running in place, maybe you need to go outside and run around the building. You'll be able to feel when those emotions aren't so stuck anymore. Think about any time you've seen even an animal have an altercation in nature. You know, they don't have the same resources as we do for processing their feelings, but you'll notice they typically shake it out before they move on. That is a good note for you and a visual reminder that when you experience feelings appear, it has a reaction, there's a response throughout your body. And part of your processing could be physical. It doesn't necessarily have to be intellectual. If this run in with this person with unconscious bias or straight up obvious bias that they're aware of and they've chosen to do nothing about, has caused you some grief or sadness because it's a reminder that you are not in safe spaces as often as you deserve to be and would like to be, then maybe something more soothing is what you're going to need. Maybe you need to go home early. Maybe you need to cancel whatever you have planned for later on in the day so that you can take a long, relaxing hot shower so that you can really decompress. Rest can help. A very calming evening meditation might be nice, listening to music that you find soothing or that feels like a heart opener for you. And what would a heart opener be? The types of songs that make you feel like crying, but you don't even know why, like it softens up your heart center a little bit. That can be helpful so that maybe you can induce a good cry if that's what you need to move through it and move on. If the encounter left you with more of a sense of not being safe, like a lot of tension and anxiety, then really creating a calming environment when you can, when you get home, when you get out of that space is going to be very helpful. You can do this however feels right for you. For some people, aromatherapy or a soothing playlist is really going to be helpful. Getting cozy with a weighted blanket or a cozy blanket, creating an atmosphere that says to you safety, that says to you, this is a space where I don't have to perform, I don't have to do anything. All I have to do is just be. Something hands-on and practical like EFT can also be very helpful. What is EFT? EFT is essentially a series of tapping that you do around the body that helps you release emotions and really helps you bring down anxiety levels. If you are not familiar with that and that's something you would like to explore, don't worry. I am developing an EFT playlist on this channel. So make sure you subscribe and you hit the bell so that you're notified when those start to post. So the goal is to validate your emotional experience, feel your feelings, process them so that you can move on, so that you don't store them in your body. You deserve breaks from all of the stressors that you're constantly being bombarded with. And the only way you're going to get those breaks is if you do it with intention. You have to take them, you have to create space for them. If you find that the self proclaimed ally in your office isn't capable of holding space for you, no problem, move on. There are other sources, there are other people who are deeper into this liberation work than others who will be able to hold space for you, who know that it's inappropriate to ask for silence from the person who's receiving the abuse. What we want to do is address the abuser themselves, reinforce whatever policies we have in place to protect people from this type of abuse in the workplace, and then move forward. Next week, I'm going to be posting a guided meditation to help you de stress, to help you create space and a little bit of rest if you find yourself in a hostile environment. So that could be one of those rough visits home where no one's using your pronouns and everybody's dead naming you. Or it could be just a regular Monday, unfortunately, for a lot of us. But that is coming up next week. So, again, make sure you have subscribed and hit the bell. And if there is anything specific that you need, any kind of stress management tool that you are curious about that you want addressed here, please feel free to drop it in the chat or message me so that we can talk about it in the next video.